My mother is pressuring me into adopting my toxic sister's daughter. She recently passed away in an accident, but I've never had or wanted kids. I love my life as it is right now, and don't want it to change. My sister passed away in a brutal accident a few days ago. My point here is not to talk about the sadness and grief I am feeling right now. My sister was very toxic to me and my family my whole life, until she started, ironically a month before her death, to see a psychologist and make amends. I put as much distance as possible with her and we rarely talked. I also distanced myself from the rest of my family. I was often neglected and not protected from my sister's behavior by my parents. My father was absent and careless. My mom was very present but fragile. I was the strong child, quiet, who hid her tears, who did well in school. When I got the opportunity, I moved far away, to a different country, to avoid the family drama. Every time my family reaches out to me with more drama news like your sister got arrested was the most recent one, before she passed, I become really sad and depressed. I built a life for myself that I love. Love my city, loves my job, makes a good living. Have a lot of friends. My sister leaves behind a 5-year-old adorable kid, my niece. My niece's dad passed away 2 years ago of an infarctus. He was a former alcoholic. My mom and stepdad decided to take care of my niece for now, but they are 69, and worried about how they will handle a young child at their age. I feel very guilty that this heavy task goes to them. My mom has asked several times if I could do it. I am 35, and in a relationship that started 6 months ago. I live alone in a small apartment. Neither me nor my boyfriend know if we will ever feel ready to have children. I often think I just don't want them. I like my life a lot as it is. I love my freedom. I always thought having a child was too much commitment for me to take. I was super nervous just thinking of adopting my cats. I feel a lot of guilt for not wanting to adopt my niece and, at the same time, resentment towards my sister. I feel like I have to pick up the pieces again. I chose not to be a parent precisely because I am not sure I can be a good parent. I feel like it was irresponsible of my sister to have a kid. She was a great, loving mom, but I sense that she might not be able to maintain that responsibility given her unstable state. I don't know what to tell my mom when I'll fly there and will meet her. I'm terrified and extremely anxious. I do not want to take care of a child right now, and I don't know that I will in years from now. We will have to find a solution, my mom said. But why would the solution be me? Update. First of all, thank you all for your support. It really helped. I wrote a short message on purpose, not wanting to enter into too many details, but after reading your comments I want to clarify a few points. My sister passed away in an accident because she was driving a scooter after drinking quite a lot. My sister was not only toxic to me, but she was also extremely toxic to my mom, who suffered a lot from her behavior, constantly supporting her, while I kept at a distance to protect myself. My mom likely didn't protect me partly because she was overwhelmed. My mom and stepdad are healthy. They're also well off financially, and both retired. They have family and friends around them supporting them, whereas I live without any family in a different country. I don't know if my mom expects me to come back to my country of origin, but that is out of the question. I have a new citizenship and my life is here now. My sister didn't go to jail. She was only arrested, judged, and got a suspended prison sentence. My niece doesn't know about this. I absolutely don't hate my niece, and I know she has nothing to do with my sister's mistakes. But I also don't feel as close to her as I would had I been close to my sister and to the rest of my family. I am not in my niece's head, but I don't think she is a scarred child. She must have been disturbed at times when her dad passed away, although she was very young at the time and didn't completely realize, or when my sister got arrested and someone else had to go pick her up at school. But my mom and stepdad have taken care of her a lot to help my sister out. She spends weekends at their lovely home and receives a lot of attention. My sister was not perfect and stable, but a very loving, caring, and present mom. She bought my niece mountains of clothes and mountains of presents. My niece's dad stopped being an alcoholic before he got her, so she didn't witness his addiction. He then relapsed, but my sister and him separated at that point. Then he became sober again, and my niece was spending vacations with him, his parents, his aunt, and her cousins during summer, and he was a loving, caring dad as well. All this to say my niece was always surrounded and loved. She's a charming, lovely child, a wise and smart kid. You cannot not adore her. My niece is very attached to my mom and stepdad, who she calls grandpa, and they are to her too. After my sister passed, she told them, "You are now my parents." I know, heartbreaking. But my stepfather is very reluctant to keep my niece because he wants a peaceful retirement, which I think is completely legitimate, and they're scared as they're becoming parents at the age of 69. The dad's family, my niece sometimes spends vacations at her other grandparents and with her cousins. Her dad also has a sister, but she already has 2 kids, according to my mom, which for me means she could take care of a third one with financial support or the rest of the family. Better than me, who's never had or wanted one, but it seems they don't see it that way. On the side of her father, her grandparents are also 69, and the grandfather has cancer, so I see why it's a burden they cannot take. I am flying back to my country of origin to attend the funeral, and it is not a question for me. I don't want to miss it. I know I've mentioned my resentment, but, since she's passed, all I feel towards my sister is love and compassion. I think, in the end, she's the one who suffered the most. But I do feel upset that once again I have to pick up the pieces and suffer from her behavior. I truly have not done anything to deserve that in my life. I have always treated people well and been responsible. My mom brought up the adoption again on the phone, and I just feel super anxious at the idea I could have to adopt a child. I'm getting prepared to clearly explain to my mom that this is not an option for me. Your messages are really helping me out. My guilt is more painful than my grief at the moment. Any advice on how to have this conversation is very welcome. My brain is really foggy, so I cannot do much research right now, but I've read quickly about open adoption, a child being adopted by a family while keeping in touch with their biological family. Someone had experience with this. Update 2. Since a few have asked recently, I'm giving an update. It's been 8 months since my sister passed away. My mom ended up becoming her guardian, and she and my stepfather adore her, my niece. She has a good life with them, as they live in a big house, with a garden, a dog, and they are well off. My niece is still going to the same school. My sister was living in the same city as my mom, and she occasionally spends vacations with her paternal grandparents. My younger stepsister comes to see her almost every weekend, brings her to the fair, and both my stepsisters will take her with them on vacations. But of course, it's hard on my mom and stepfather to raise a kid at their age, and I feel a lot of guilt when I see them being tired. 2 of my cousins have offered to adopt my niece. One of them desperately wanted children but was never able to conceive, and my older stepsister said she would take her if my mom and stepdad could not raise her anymore. My mom also said that, if she asked my niece's other aunt, her dad's sister, the latter would probably agree to adopt her. But for now, my mom wants to keep raising her, and I think she's too attached to let her go with anyone else. What upsets me is, my mom, who knows I don't want children, has continued making hints about how I should adopt my niece eventually. She says things like, "Isn't she cute? Wouldn't you love to live with her?" In spite of other members of the family being way more willing to. I get where she's coming from. In terms of blood, I'm the closest person to my sister, and she wants my niece to stay in the hands of the closest family members. But I feel like she's ignoring who I am and wants to impose a life on me that I don't want. I love my life as it is. I have no routine. I make good money but don't have a guaranteed income, as I work 100% as a freelancer. I never wake up at the same time, never use an alarm clock. I could decide to pack my stuff and go live in Costa Rica tomorrow. I love spending time with my boyfriend and friends on weekends, spontaneously taking a walk with my bestie who lives nearby, pull an all-nighter when I need to, eat whatever, whenever. I love my independence and my freeform lifestyle. Raising a kid, it's just not for me. I've made it clear to my mom, on 2 occasions and the last time, quite firmly, that I did not want to adopt my niece. I think she's a bit in denial about it. It's like she's not hearing me when I say it. I think it's selfish of her, especially when there are other options. I'm comforted by the idea that I cannot be legally obliged to adopt a child.